Hi guys! Thank you so much for watching my first video, which was a vlog. Yeah, thank you for all your support on that. Today's video is going to be more of a sit down, get to know me kind of video. I am here with, can I show your beautiful face, darling? With Mulan, who you may see occasionally throughout this video. You might see her pop up. She is one of Ivy Dene Rabbit Rescue's residents. She was spayed last week and she's doing really well. She was found in a allotment where there was a man feeding her bread, and there was a lovely woman who obviously realised that that wasn't ideal, and also then realised that there was a male wild rabbit who had got into her small enclosure and impregnated her, and she'd given birth to a litter of half wild babies. So they are also in our care, but they're not with me currently, and they definitely wouldn't want to be in a video, but I'll talk about them on another video. Main thing is that Mulan is happy, safe, and I love her. So today I wanted to talk about the story of Ivy Dene Rabbit Rescue, how it came to be, and yeah, just have a little chat about that so you can get to know me and how it all started. So I suppose I'll start at the very beginning. I always loved rabbits. Yeah, I'm trying to think like really early, like what was it that made me so excited to have a rabbit rather than a dog or a cat? And I think, although I do really love dogs and cats, I think when I was young I was probably perhaps a little intimidated by them. Like rabbits felt like a little bit different and just a bit more of a calmer energy, which I still feel now. Yeah, I was just always drawn to them. So when, for my 5th birthday, obviously I don't agree with buying rabbits as presents for children, but my 5th birthday present was a little rabbit called Betsy. She was a little Dutch, she was gorgeous. We got her as a baby from a pet shop, and I just like fiercely loved that rabbit. She lived on her own, which is obviously not what I agree with now. But she didn't have the worst life that she could possibly have had. She had lots of time free roaming in the house. She had quite a big run that she was able to play in. She died after about 1.5 years or so, and yeah, I was just so upset. And then, yeah, I didn't have a rabbit for a long time. I had a close friend at school who got a rabbit who I just adored, and was just deathly jealous of my friend that she had a rabbit, and she didn't seem to spend as much time with her as the rabbit as I would have done. And I loved it when she went on holiday or she went away to live in France for a year, so I got to look after the rabbit. That was just the best. Yeah, so I've just always loved rabbits. And then fast forward many years, I'm in high school, I'm going through a really bad time with my mental health, and my dad said that somebody he worked with was that they breed French lops, and I was just so excited. So we went to just visit them with no idea of getting one, and yeah, when I say my mental health was bad, it was bad. And visiting those rabbits just gave me so much happiness and joy, and probably the most that I'd really had in a long time. And then we found out about a couple months later probably that they'd had another litter. So at that point I was like, I think I'd really like one, and I was probably at that stage about 16, 17. So they said, if you were to have a rabbit, it would be my responsibility, and I was completely happy with that. So I went to visit them when they were about 4 or 5 weeks old. Sorry, this is a really long-winded story, I'm really going into the details here. And then I went when they were a little bit older to choose which one I wanted, and Bellatrix, or, well, we were told they were a boy because the breed didn't know. And so I did call her Dumble at the time. She was Dumble for a few weeks. She licked me, and I was just like, okay, she's mine, she's definitely mine. So then I bought her when she was 8 weeks old, and like it's hard to put into words how much my life changed at that point. I just was so obsessed with her, spent so much time researching rabbits. There was a couple of weeks where I wanted to breed her, and it was out of a desire of just having more rabbits in my life and just loving them so much. But then as I researched more and more about rabbits and what they really needed, and started to understand that how many rabbits were suffering and that there were more rabbits than there were good homes and all of these kind of things, I quickly started to realise that what I had done wasn't the most responsible thing, and rabbits were suffering and we didn't need more rabbits, we needed to help the rabbits that were already here. So my idea of breeding quickly went out of the window, and I was more interested about what I could do to help, or more so what I could do to make Bellatrix's life just the best ever. So I realised that she needed a friend. At the time I thought that the Pets at Home adoption centre was adopting, and it's better than buying obviously or going to a breeder, but a lot of the time the adoption centre of Pets at Home is just the rabbits that have grown out of the cute baby stage and are then being passed on in the adoption centre, but I didn't realise that at the time. So we adopted Theodore, or I did, to be friends with Bella, and they just weren't the best match. There were lots of scuffles. They just didn't really like each other that much. I don't think they wanted to be together. And then Bellatrix developed a abscess on the side of her neck, which was super worrying at the time. It ballooned massively. I got loads of support off a rabbit forum online, but at that time she was obviously in pain and she started attacking Theodore like to a greater extent, and we realised that they just really weren't compatible. It wasn't safe to keep them together, so we separated them. And at that point my parents, they decided to move, and I had just met my boyfriend Rob and didn't want to move, and I was working with a family being a nanny for their young child. I didn't want to leave her, so I was going to stay in Leeds and Mum and Dad were going to move, but I had nowhere to keep Bellatrix or Theodore. So unfortunately I had to surrender Theodore, which I am embarrassed about and I'm upset about, but it has given me, and I was devastated at the time, but it really gave me, it's given me a lot of perspective now, because I can understand there are some situations where people just cannot give a rabbit the life that they need because of the circumstances, and sometimes there's just nothing you can do about that, and the best thing for Theodore was to be surrendered. So that helps me get a bit of perspective when I talk to people who want to surrender the rabbits. Not all of them are just people who want to get rid of them straight away, like as soon as the child gets bored, like that kind of thing. So I surrendered him to a wonderful charity at the time called Camp Nibble, who's not working at the moment anymore. And Bellatrix lived with my boyfriend for a time, and then she went and lived with my mum and dad when myself and Rob bought a house. We started renting a small house together, and I wrote so many letters to that landlord asking if I could have Bellatrix with me, and then cried every time he said no. So I went and visited her a lot at my parents' house, but it wasn't ideal, and it wasn't the right situation to bring another rabbit in, because it would be putting that extra responsibility on my mum and dad. I think I should have done that anyway, but now I have the hindsight to realise that how crucial companionship is. But also naively, I thought that perhaps rabbits didn't need, I knew that all rabbits needed companionship, but I was one of those people who thought Bellatrix was different because she was so human orientated. She really, really did get a lot out of human company. But I know now that that wasn't enough, and that rabbit companionship is even more important, even to those rabbits who are really human orientated and get a lot out of human company. They still need that rabbit company. We can't be with them 24/7. But at the time I thought perhaps it was good enough because she did love being with humans so much. So yeah, fast forward a couple more years, and eventually me and Rob were able to buy a house together, which meant that we could have Bellatrix with us, which I was just so happy about. At that point, with those years without Bellatrix, really, again, my mental health had really, really got to a very, very difficult, dark place. At that point I wasn't working, I was unable to work. So again, Bella came back into my life at that time that I needed her most, and she gave me so much structure and I didn't want to get upset this early in the video. she gave me structure and somebody to look after, but she had such a gentle, calming yet confident energy that was just, it's hard to describe because I've met thousands of rabbits, but she was just really, really grounding. And she, obviously rabbits being prey animals, that they can be a bit flighty, a bit timid. Even super confident rabbits are often scared by a new noise or if you move too fast around them. And she just wasn't. She was just so calm. Nothing ever fazed her. Like there were some like behaviours that she just never really did. Like she would never really periscope and get up on her back legs because it's like she didn't really perceive that there would ever be a danger to her. She was just so like self-assured and had so much confidence, but not in a super bolshy way. She was like really calm with it. She was so affectionate, like it really felt like she knew when I was having a tough day and she would just be with me. And she was demanding in like her own way. Like if you stopped stroking her head, she'd like completely like nudge you until you started doing it again. She really genuinely did not mind being picked up. She would, if you were carrying her, which I didn't do very often, but she'd like, I swear, she did not mind it. But sometimes she would like give me a gentle nip if she was lying on my lap or if I was holding her. And then and it's because she'd need a wee, then she'd run to her nearest litter box, do a wee, come back and like sit at my feet waiting for me to pick her up again. And her presence was so, like, because she was a big rabbit, she was just so calming is like the best way I could describe it. And she just gave me so much peace and happiness and love. And I could just talk forever about my love for that rabbit. So yeah, it was a couple months into having her at that new house. She did make me feel better, like my mental health was improved with having her a lot. But things were still really difficult. It wasn't like a switch and I was better overnight. I was still unable to work. Without going into the details, it's not entirely relevant, but it was just a really, really difficult time. And then we heard about Rob's friend's girlfriend had bought 2 rabbits from a pet shop, thinking they were the same sex, and they weren't, and then they had babies, and then those had babies, so she ended up with like 20 odd rabbits. And I said to Rob, like, I'd really like to help her, it feels right that I should help her and help those rabbits. So I think Rob agreed to us taking the youngest litter so we could stop them having more babies, sex the older litter and help her separate them, just give her the space to separate them. But obviously when we went, I took all the babies and mums, left her with the male adults. I got rescue spaces for those male adults, and then I was left with 2 mums and 2 litters. So it was at that moment that like everything changed. Like I was suddenly able to take phone calls trying to organise their vaccinations. I was working on fundraisers about how I could raise money to vaccinate these 13 rabbits. It was like even like the learning again about like when they need their vaccinations, when they need to be neutered, like socialising them, dealing with like their little minor health conditions that came up, talking to people online to get supplies and making friends, like just communicating with people in a way that I just hadn't done in so many years. Creating their space and their pen and cleaning them out and just having all of these roles to do, and for these rabbits, like it was just completely changed things for me. Like that was like the 180 turnaround that I desperately needed whilst looking after Bella. And she, like, I remember going into Bella's room and saying like, I still love you, you're still my favourite, and spending as much time with her as possible whilst caring for these little ones. So then I never planned to keep any of them. Like the point of this was to get them to a place where I could move them on and to find homes for them. So when that time came, when they were when I neutered them all, I was just filled with absolute fear. Like, what happens when all of these babies go? What happens when I've rehomed everybody? Does my life just go back to what it was before? Like, what do I do next? How do I keep this going? So I started to realise that all these different rabbit rescues exist, and maybe I could do this. I was looking into what I needed to set up, how I could do it, what I needed, and it was really that fear of going back to how I was before and not wanting to let go of helping these animals and helping them, and pouring that into them was helping me, and I couldn't let that go. So it kind of forced me into creating Ivy Dene Rabbit Rescue. I should probably have said that a couple of years before that I became vegan, because I watched some documentaries, realised that I called myself an animal lover. Yeah, I ate animals and I paid for their suffering, for milk and for eggs. So I realised that those things just didn't align, and decided to become vegan pretty much overnight. I was vegetarian for a week and then I became vegan and haven't looked back since. So that kind of like really strong, passionate, ethical grounding was there from the start of Ivy Dene Rabbit Rescue, and I wanted to create a charity that, well, I suppose I didn't really know it was a charity then, but I wanted to create something that cared for rabbits, but from a very organic and truly ethical place. Not treating them as a pet, that I'm trying to create good pets for people, and trying to make these rabbits, to turn these rabbits into good pets, and to find them good owners who can enjoy them. Like, I didn't want that narrative. I wanted to look at a rabbit and see them as an individual, try to understand them and get to know them, and to find a home with a guardian who would be best suited for them and would give them the best life possible. And it would be really animal focused and individual focused on the rabbit who was in front of me, who I was trying to change their life for them. And also at the same time having a really ethical grounding for the way we fundraise. So obviously I was doing very simple fundraising to begin with, and it took a little while until I branched out into other things like the shop and things like that. But I was still very adamant that I didn't want any money to be raised for the rabbits through non-vegan sources. It didn't feel right for me to allow people to make cakes made out of dairy whilst, which obviously is cruel to the cows, in order to raise money for the rabbits. So that was like a really strong passion from the very beginning, and that has carried on throughout. So those original 13 rabbits we took on, and that was over 5.5 years ago now. And since then it's just grown and grown and grown. Met loads of amazing people in the first year who really helped. I think it helped me with my confidence more than anything. Like, there were lots of practical help, but just that other people believed in me and thought that I could do this and I was doing a good job. It really gave me the confidence to think I could do this properly. I am a very passionate and the type of person that when I start something, I all in, like hyper focus, like want to do it properly. So I was quite good at getting the systems in from the beginning and realising that if I wanted to do this properly, I needed like a really good base. I needed good systems and processes and like fundraising ideas, and get those going from the beginning. And I really enjoyed all that. I loved it. Obviously it was all fueled by the rabbits, but I did really enjoy that, creating something and sitting at the computer thinking, okay, how am I going to make this work? I loved that as well. So yeah, it just built from there. We started I think it took about 18 months perhaps to become a registered charity. So in that time I was making friends and meeting people who I thought I trusted and would be on the same page as me, to be able to start a board of trustees to be able to do it properly. And there were some really great people who made a huge difference at the start in enabling me to do that. We started creating a community around the rescue with foraging walks, and later came things like our afternoon teas that we do. And yeah, it just absolutely became my whole entire life. I can't really put into words to the extent to which it took over. My family were thrilled because they were so concerned about how ill I was before, but also I suppose kind of concerned and confused about what this thing is that I was doing. But I think they've also realised that it was always going to be something, and whatever I chose, it would be something that would really take over, and I would just go all in on. And this didn't seem like the worst the worst thing it could be. So yeah, I think then probably less than a year in, little bunny, black bunny with a white nose came into the rescue, who was being traumatised and it was a strange situation, by pregnant dogs. It was just, this woman thought that she'd rescued him from somewhere else, which is awful to think, because I don't know what she thought she rescued him from to think that where he was any better. So took him on, just absolutely fell in love with this little guy, tried to bond him with an adopter's rabbit and it didn't work out, kind of took that as a sign that maybe he could be Bellatrix's friend. I wouldn't say it was love at first sight, but Bellatrix tolerated him from the beginning, and Wilbur probably humped her 24/7 for the first week and a half, but that was about it. Bella would literally just roll her eyes at him, and that's how their relationship continued for the next 3-4 years. Yeah, it was a very funny relationship where Bellatrix was completely in charge, but Wilbur would kind of pretend, and they both knew he was pretending, and he would hump her, he would chase her, and she would just be just roll her eyes at him. It's just wouldn't take him seriously. It was just hilarious, but they loved each other. And then Bella started getting ill again, so her abscess came back once and then we got on top of it again, but then she started getting ear infections, and her to the point where it paralysed the nerves in her face, so she started to get a bit of not a traditional head tilt that way, but it was pulling her head to the side of the infected ear and causing nerve contractions. So we had surgery on the worst ear, but the other ear was pretty much just as bad. And the recovery she really took the recovery hard, and I think the infection had just spread too far, despite having excellent vet checkups beforehand, and as it was building, it spread too far too quickly, and as it got to the point where we were considering doing the second ear, she was just starting to deteriorate, and I knew that doing the second operation wouldn't be in her best interest, and she wouldn't be able to. I don't think she'd have got through the recovery of the second ear, and it wasn't fair to put her through that. So we decided to let her go, which I think it's just one of the hardest things I'm hopefully ever going to have to go through, because I don't want to say she wasn't just a rabbit, because no rabbit is just a rabbit. Each rabbit is an individual who has their own likes and dislikes and personality and desires. They all want to live, they all and they're all so different. So in some ways, by saying she was special and she was more than just a rabbit, I don't want that to degrade other rabbits, because they are all special. I think what was probably special was my relationship with her, and it's probably in some ways that I grieve the most, because I worry, and I know that I'm never going to experience that again with another animal, probably even another person. Animal, human or otherwise, because we understood each other, and we just had an understanding that was so deep and pure, and I grieve her every single day. It's been about 18 months now, and it doesn't really get any easier. But she continues to give me so much drive to fight for the rabbits who weren't so lucky to have somebody like me caring for them. Also, because it was the ear infection that caused her so much suffering and took her at the end, it's caused me to be extremely passionate about ear infection in lops. Probably to a fault where it's probably quite irritating. Actually, definitely very irritating. I really push my advocacy for having thorough checks on lop ear rabbits, because if you've got a lop-eared rabbit who you think hasn't got an ear infection, you're almost certainly wrong, and it's just that either your vet isn't, they don't understand how to look for the ear infection properly, or they don't understand the importance of looking for an ear infection properly, or the ear infection is too deep and you're not able to see it without imaging. Because as I've continued to care for lops throughout the rescue, it remains true that I believe I'd like to get more, one of my aims is to get more statistics on this as we able to take on and help more rabbits. But I believe around 8 to 9 out of 10 lop-eared rabbits, if they live long enough, will develop ear infections. Some of those will be at 1 or 2 years old, some will get to about 5 or 6 or older until they appear. But it's such a, I don't know if you've ever had an ear infection before, but I have, which helps as well with my empathy and compassion for rabbits with ear infections. But it's not just a pain in your ear, it hurts your head, it makes you feel sick, it ruins your appetite, it like the pain spreads all through your face and your jaw, just makes you feel really unwell. It can give you like hot sweats and a fever, and it's just a really awful thing to have. So these rabbits are, as prey animals who are like terrified when they feel pain and feel like they can't protect themselves properly, and they're hiding all these symptoms. You can only imagine how pretty horrendous a life with an ear infection would be. So that's one of the driving forces within my work with rabbits, in both Ivy Dene and the National Rabbit Festival, and hopefully the vet practice that me and Vicky will open in the future. So yeah, that really inspires me to work harder, and Bella is just in everything that I do. Yeah, maybe I should stop talking about it, because this shouldn't just literally be me crying for a whole video. But yeah, she inspires me with literally everything I do, literally every day. So she is a huge reason behind Ivy Dene Rabbit Rescue. And then from there, if we finish the story, so she passed away when we were just a couple months before we left our old house, and then we moved house to this house, which again breaks my heart. Bella would have loved it here, but like I said, she's very much here in our minds and in everything that we do. We wanted to buy a house that was able to grow the rescue, and that was like our priority really in what house we chose to buy. So there's lots of outside space, and there's an external garage and things like that, and I will do another video about our plans for the building work. It's too much to talk about in this video, but yeah, we bought this house with the view to be able to grow the charity from it, but also to have a little bit more separation, because like I said, the charity took over my life to such a huge extent. It started to cause some problems, and I take these problems over any of my previous problems, but it was getting increasingly hard for me to shut down and to have some downtime, and to take some time for myself and to do other things. So this house also allows us to, well, allows there to be a little bit of separation between the charity and just normal life, which is like a huge thing, and I'm so grateful for. So there's loads of potential in this house to continue to grow the charity, which is what we will do. And yeah, it's just really exciting, and I will really look forward to explaining some of those ideas and take you along on the journey of building a rescue and being able to help a hell of a lot more rabbits with a lot more space that we have here. It has been extremely frustrating over the last year or two with moving house and then applying for planning permission and all this stuff that I'll go into another time. It's meant that we've had to really reduce our numbers, which has been difficult, but it's all for the greater good and it'll all be worth it in the end. So yeah, I look forward to sharing all of that with you in future videos. I'm going to leave that there now. I'm probably going to go off and cry even more. Thank you for watching and for putting up with a very emotional me. If you're watching this and you have supported Ivy Dene Rabbit Rescue in any way over the years, thank you so much. The rescue is my dream, it's my passion, it's my life, but it's also a lot of other people's. Like, a lot of other people have put so much time and effort and love and energy into this charity, and I'm just so thankful for every single one of you for helping my dreams come true, which in turn has helped save the lives of so many rabbits. So thank you all so much, and I will see you again. So our food shop came at the worst timing as I was saying goodbye, but I just thought Mulan might want to say goodbye too. Sorry about her bald stomach after she's just had a spay. But yeah, follow along on our Facebook and Instagram to find out more about Mulan and when she'll be available for adoption, even though I want you to stay because you're gorgeous. Thank you so much for listening. I will speak to you guys soon. Bye.